Hello and welcome to Cash Chats, the podcast from Be Clever With Your Cash that helps you make the most of your money. I'm Amelia Murray.
And I'm Andy Webb. Some of the stories we're looking at in Your Money this week include a warning from the Prime Minister about what to expect in next month's budget. We'll be looking at Ikea's new loyalty scheme, plus just how much more expensive takeaways have got over the last few years. That's all in episode 413 of Cash Chats.
Hello, Andy. How's it going?
Hey. Good.
What's been going on with you?
So, money-wise, went to a festival last weekend in London, and it's not going to be one for everyone, but it's a great little hack. If you've got a friend like I do who works for the NHS, make sure they have a look at some of the different websites they have access to, which get you bargain tickets. So this should have cost me 90 quid, all in with fees. I mean, I would have found ways to get it for less, I'm sure. But it ended up we paid £10 plus a £5 booking fee each. So that was an absolute bargain. And then when we turned up, there was a big long queue, and next to it, a big empty queue. And that was if you had an American Express card, you could just jump the queue. So we walked straight in, flashed my card on my phone, and then we were in. And there were other freebies I got with my Amex, which were okay. I got like a water bottle and some pick and mix. But yeah, a good fun experience. So certainly these ticket resale places are great, but something I've never seen, this kind of way to save money. If you are NHS, I think there might be similar ones. If you're a teacher, maybe some other kind of key workers. If you are already there, sign up for them. If not, see if you've got a mate who's got access. You do have to go with them. You're not, officially, whether that's actually police or not, it doesn't matter. But yeah, big money saver for festivals, for gigs, for theatre, all sorts of things going on with them.
Bro.
How about you? Anything big going on?
It's upcoming big things. So I have started leaving big purchases or like non-essential big purchases to payday, and it's coming up at the time of recording. And so the latest thing that I've been putting off is buying a new phone.
Yeah, you need that. Your phone is a right state. You do. I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, she's an old lady and she's been through a lot. And so I bought the phone, I think about 4 years ago, and I bought it from giffgaff as a refurb. And I was like, I've never had a refurb phone before. I'll take a punt on it. And it's seen me well. I mean, it was unfortunate that the day I took the case off, I dropped the phone in Lidl and it smashed. And since then, bits of the screen have fallen off and the pixels are dying on the screen. So it's definitely time to invest in a new one. And so, basically after payday, I kind of want to make some decisions. So I'm looking back at the refurb market, lots of good offers there. But kind of looking at, they offer different lengths of warranty. So some will have like a year, some have 2 years. The battery life was always an issue with me for this phone. And because I'm out and about quite a lot, it's really important. And most of them offer at least 80% of the battery life. But I'm hoping, I don't know, I'm like, should I pay more for a brand new phone for better battery life? And then I've always been SIM only. And so I'm kind of considering, if it's worth going into a contract, which I don't think it will be. But those are my decisions that I'm going to be making over the next few days with my money and my livelihood. Is
it an iPhone? It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, do you know what you should be doing? This, if anyone who's thinking about getting a new phone in the next few weeks, is probably to wait a little bit, because normally in mid-September, that's when Apple introduces the latest iteration. And even if you're not going to spend, $1,000 plus or something on the flashiest handsets, it generally does mean that people are getting rid of their old ones when they do upgrade. And each time the price will drop on some of those older models. So if you are looking to buy one brand new or refurbished that's a couple of years old, that could get cheaper in, 3 or 4 weeks' time. So maybe it's worth, holding off and seeing what happens there. It's definitely
holding off until I can see nothing on my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll see how. Yeah. It's a good idea, but I'll see how long I can get by with this one.
Just go off the grid for a little bit; it'd be fine. You don't need it. It's nice.
Be dreaming, actually. Yeah.
Right, let's get into the big stories. I'm going to kick things off with a story from this week that concerns the budget, which will be the Labour government's first budget. So they're going to be setting out their big economic plans for the year. And Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, had a little press conference this week in the Downing Street, in the gardens at the back there. And within this, he gave us a hint of the scale of quite what to expect from this budget, say, coming in October. And this is just some quotes. Again, as ever, we share the articles that we're talking about here in the show notes. This is from the BBC coverage of that speech. And some of the quotes are, things were worse than we ever imagined in terms of the finances when they actually got into power. They've kind of said that already. They hinted at that. Well, not even hinted at it. Rachel Reeves explicitly said there was this £22 billion black hole they discovered. But then Starmer went on to say that the budget would be painful, use that word painful. There will be big asks of the public, that we should be accepting short-term pain for long-term good. And this one also, that the broadest shoulders should bear the heavier burden. So those effectively who have more money will be having to sort of pay more towards filling this gap. So again, not massively a surprise, but it's interesting to see such, actors, particular words being used and kind of teeing us up for what sounds like it could be kind of a meaty and quite hefty series of, well, either cuts to spending or tax increases in different ways. Now, we've covered this before when Labour came into power, and we've talked about this. Most of the headlines you see out there are speculation. We don't know for certain, other than there will be a reduction in who gets winter fuel payments, and other than there won't be changes to VAT or income tax or national insurance. Other than that, we don't actually know anything as yet. So it's not really worth us going through bit by bit, as I'm sure some places will, about all these things and what they might mean until we actually have any more detail. But what we can say is that the strong contenders probably include things like capital gains tax, inheritance tax, and pension tax relief. They seem to be where a lot of people are thinking there could be some big chunky amounts of money coming in. Also some talk about maybe, windfall taxes on like the banks and places like that. We will obviously give you, when the budget happens, I'll do a video and a podcast episode sort of as soon as we can. Afterwards, we'll have an article taking you through what it means for you as well in that kind of immediate impact afterwards. Then anything we hear before that, we'll obviously let you know then as well. But for now, just help. I think they're trying to sort of get us all, get our mind frame around the fact that it's going to be pretty harsh.
Yeah, it's funny. The language they've used is so strong. And I'm just like, I'm wondering if they're doing that on purpose. So actually, when it comes to it, it's like, oh, it wasn't that bad. Because when I'm looking at it, like, I'm not worried. Like, the language around the broader shoulders are kind of going to be taking the heaviest of the burden. And, looking at capital gains or inheritance tax, like, the way I kind of see the big picture is, if you do earn more or you do have more, it's always been that way. You have to pay more. And that's just how the tax system works. So for me, if this is for the greater good, and if it does turn out that I don't think I'm going to be affected at the moment by any of these potential changes. But, if it did come to that, because it is fixing this black hole and also, ensuring that people who don't have as much are supported, I'm kind of all for it. So yeah, I'm not in a frenzy or kind of worried at all. I'm kind of like, actually, we'll take it as it comes. And if it's for the greater good, then I'm kind of all for it.
Yeah, and it's when we talked about the manifestos as well back in, was it June? We did that, wasn't it? It's going so fast, isn't it? There were so many of these promises from the smaller parties that sounded amazing, but in reality, they could say what they wanted because they weren't going to get into power and they weren't going to have to make some of those harder decisions. So whoever did win, let's face it, Labour or Conservative, and we knew at the time, good chance it was going to be Labour as it was. This is kind of what was on the cards anyway. So there's an element of kind of like, we knew this was coming. Just to see how bad it is when it comes along.
Mm-hmm. And there's a change that Labour is definitely pushing for that has got a bit more kind of specifics around it. So this is around buy now, pay later, which we talk about on the podcast quite a lot. And this is where, you see it on lots of retailers' sites. It's where you may not have the money now and you can split the cost into 3 months and pay in installments. There has been so much talk about regulation in this area for ages. I think it was first brought up in 2021 around regulating the industry, because at the moment it's unregulated, which means if things go wrong, there's no recourse. If it was a regulated industry, you would be able to take your complaints to the financial ombudsman, so greater protection there. They're also calling for affordability checks. A couple of years ago, they were also calling for advertisements to be clear and fair and not misleading, because I've mentioned this before, just the way that it's marketed, targeting young people specifically. And I don't think it's particularly clear that young people are getting into debt when they are using these. It's a very seamless transaction when you go onto a retailer's website. And, I've seen it advertised at festivals and, a prominent player in this space. And I think, definitely the risks and kind of the product needs to be a lot clearer. And what I've kind of seen is that concern from previous governments, the previous government, was that if they were a bit too hard on these companies, then they would quit the UK in favour of countries with more relaxed rules. So there was a bit of a kind of incentive to maybe not crack down on this industry, which, you know, make of that what you will. But Labour has said it's planning to make an announcement in its first 100 days in power. So we could be expecting some changes really soon.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about crackdown, it's not about trying to stop the services existing. It's just about making sure that it's better for consumers, that we aren't getting caught out, as you said, by this kind of potential cycle of kind of just owing money all the time, and helping people understand exactly what they're getting into, as we do with other forms of borrowing. Because there are absolutely, you know, some people do use buy now, pay later in a way that works well for them, and it's so prevalent now everywhere that it'd be very strange for it to disappear. But yeah, it's about making it work better and working in a way that, if it is regulated essentially, so things go a bit dodgy, then they can be sorted out and those firms can be punished, rather than right now, as you say, they can just get away with anything. So a few weeks ago, we spoke about Rough Trade's controversial vinyl buyback scheme and how it wasn't really delivering good prices for customers. There's a similar scheme launched this week in terms of secondhand books. Now, this isn't anything new. There have been apps and websites around for years where you can scan your books and DVDs and CDs and stuff and get some money for them. And as we talked about a few weeks ago, broadly speaking, not that amazing. But this one's interesting. This one is from bookshop.org. And people might have already come across this for buying brand new books. What they do is they effectively, you can link it to independent bookstores, and it kind of means that the money is being, if you know, you're still buying online, you're getting the benefits of doing it that way, but you're still supporting a local shop. If for some reason you can't or are unable to sort of actually go and visit a local shop, or maybe you don't have one anymore in your area. So it's a really good shop for that. As a result, the prices aren't as cheap as Amazon, but again, that's the trade-off I think you've got to make in lots of ways. So this is what they do, bookshop.org. I think they're a great online bookshop to be going for. So they have launched Book Loop, and it works just like the others. You open up the app, the website on your phone, and you scan the barcode or enter in the ISBN, is it? Whatever that number is. You know the one I mean, the one on the back. You enter that in, and it will give you the price. And so far, so what? But what's good about this one is that, one, the authors will be getting a share of the royalties from them being sold secondhand again. So that's quite good in a way, because I like the idea of secondhand books, but you do wonder about actually then what does that mean for the actual authors? We know some of them don't get a huge amount. Some of them will be getting loads, but most of them don't get much money. So it's nice that kind of goes back to them that way. But also the secondhand books themselves that you sell to them, and this is only for people who are maybe boycotting Amazon for whatever reason. We talked about that a lot in the past. These books will not be sold on Amazon. They'll be sold in other places. So again, that's another reason why you might want to consider it over some of the others. So that's it in principle. It's called Book Loop. I guess it all sounds great. The question really is about, does it perform? So before we recorded this, I got the phone out. I also got the Ziffit app, which is a kind of one of the more long-standing competitors, and I scanned about 20 books. And I found that it didn't take many of the books that I scanned, maybe about 5 out of those 20, whereas if it was maybe around about sort of 12 or 13. But the books that it did take, it paid a lot more, maybe £1 more. So again, this might be one of those things that first place, go there, see if you can you've got to sell a minimum of £5 worth of books, see if you can get something there, what prices you can get. And then after that, if you've got a big collection, it's like we said a few weeks ago, try these apps, see if you can get some money. If you can't, you might just be better off selling them yourselves, or just giving to a charity shop. But yeah, an interesting one that's come along. It's nice to see a kind of more ethical alternative to some of the others.
Yeah, definitely. I really like the idea of the commitment to being like, it will never be sold on Amazon. I'm really into that. But yeah, I remember selling books, and I think I had three apps on my phone, and I sat there in my living room emptying my bookshelf. This was just before I moved house, and I scanned each book on each of the apps. It took ages. I don't know if everyone's got the patience, but I was like, I'm going to do it. And yeah, so I just did almost like my own book comparison, and then stocked them all in like the lists. So saved them and then kept them separate. And yeah, I got about 30 quid in the end, which I've spoken about in the podcast before. But yeah, it's quite time and labor intensive. So I don't know if everyone's up for that. But yeah, on the retail front, so this is a little thing that Andy spotted on Mumsnet. There was a thread about ASOS. So, like Andy, someone had received an email from ASOS saying that it's updating its fair usage policy in relation to returns, and this will apply to a small group of people, but not the recipient. So it seems to be sent to people who maybe don't use use ASOS that much. Um, the current fair use policy is really common sense. So around the returns policy, it's free returns for most people. But if they think you've been being a bit dodgy, wearing clothes and then sending them back, or ordering and returning loads, like way more than the most loyal ASOS customer, then they can deactivate your account. So there's not that much detail yet about what's going to change, but we know that retailers are trying to crack down on people buying loads of things only to return them. Like we spoke on the podcast a while ago about, a retailer introducing returns fees. And I think around half of them, of the popular high street retailers do now charge for returns. And it may kind of become a trend. So yeah, expect some changes, perhaps moving in that direction. But yeah, we'll update you when we know more.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one, isn't it? And I think this is the problem I have with so much of the online shopping is, unless you buy something regularly, how are you going to know what size you want? And actually, even there's been research in the past, haven't there, where even at the same retailer, I think or maybe it was M&S, I can't remember now, or Zara or someone, where someone got some jeans and 3 different pairs of jeans of the same size were all completely different. So particularly if you're buying from multiple brands, you've got to buy these number of different sizes. So it feels like, they say a small number of people are going to potentially have their account suspended on ASOS if they return things too much. And that might freak people out a little bit. And I think Amazon have done things in the past like this as well. But it seems incredibly unfair. And we have to see exactly they've only said these things are changing, the fair use policy. So we have to see exactly what it is. And, if you are impacted by this, if you find that your account is locked down, do get in touch with us and we can maybe help you investigate it. Because, I think it's just it doesn't seem fair that if people are needing to buy multiple things and then they do get punished by that, well, what else were they meant to do? So, I can understand why people might be a bit freaked out by getting similar sort of messages. And as you say, potentially this is something that does become more an industry norm. And, what do we do? The shops are closed. We've got to shop online. We've got no choice. And ultimately, I guess it'd be paying.
Yeah, my granny, as I always say, she refuses to shop online because she's like, it's like buying a pig in a bag, which I love. But yeah, basically, it did say on the ASOS website that, you can challenge it, you can complain if you think it's been unfair. But yeah, I like to think it is just a small number of people who are maybe kind of going a bit mad with it. But yeah, kind of watch this space, I think.
Yeah. We've got another retail one for you, actually. This is around Ikea. They have launched a new reward scheme. It's part of their existing Ikea family membership, which is free to sign up for. And it's a number of things that's done in the past. So you'd get like maybe little discounts or some free food in the restaurant now and again, things like that. So it's always been worth signing up to this family scheme. But this has just launched, the points thing. This is how it's going to work. You get a point for every £5 that you spend. That's generally the main way you're going to generate points. There are other ways to get the odd point here or there. So, for example, you get 5 points for creating a profile within your account, 2 points for creating a wish list, handful of other things like that. Not a huge number, but you might be able to, get together about 10, 15 points. But broadly speaking, you've got to spend. So on that kind of ratio, if you spend £100, you'll get 20 points. So what does that mean? It still sounds great. If you're shopping at IKEA anyway, you get these points, sounds fantastic. Well, it's not actually as exciting as I originally hoped it was going to be. There are a number of ways you can redeem it. You can redeem points for discounts in the restaurants and the cafes. You can redeem points for discounts on delivery, or you can redeem points for money off actual spending in store and online. And the lowest redemption is 22 points. So that's spending, £110? 22 points, you can get a slice of Dame cake for 10p in the restaurant. So you spend all that money and you get, a couple of quid off a piece of cake. Hey, if you're spending 100 quid in IKEA and if you're shopping there, it's an easy thing to do, right? You're often buying big things rather than little things, but still not that exciting. Then if you have 50 points, So you're going to have to spend, 250 quid? No, 100, whatever it is. 200 and something quid, right? 200, how many points? 240 quid. You can get £5 off online delivery, and each iteration of 50 would be another £5. Or if you get 125 points, so you can spend, again, coming on to 600 quid or something there, if not a bit more, then you get £10 off an £11 spend. And again, that kind of doubles up again each time. So, yeah, wanted to share it with you. It doesn't deserve its own kind of separate piece of content, just a quick briefing there. Definitely worth getting that family card anyway, the benefits that come with it. Definitely worth swiping it and keeping an eye on those points. But they don't last. I think it's like they last for 18 months. And Ikea is the kind of place, I think, for a lot of people you go to every now and again. So there is obviously a danger that you earn these points and they expire. So do remember, if you are going to earn these points, do remember to keep an eye on them so you can get your free dime cake and things like that before they do expire.
Yeah, normally the warning is don't overspend just to get the points, but the points are so minimal.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even get anywhere, would you? Like, I don't even know how you'd have to buy the whole warehouse to kind of get anything worthwhile. So I won't be giving my buyer beware warning there. And also it's interesting because it's like, the loyalty schemes are usually there to encourage spend to boost the profits of the retailer. But I'm like, what is this one? Well, it's kind of not really working for anyone. But
yeah,
anyway, there you go. Last story is about the family favourite fish and chips. Are you a fan?
Controversial, no.
Ooh, no?
I will take the batter off the fish.
Okay. So it's pointless. It's wasted on you.
It is, isn't it? I just get the chips. My mother-in-law, when I first she couldn't believe it. She was like, "Are you okay? You sure you're just fine? Just with chips? You're right with just the chips?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's fine. I don't mind at all." But yeah, controversial up north. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I'll bet. So it's a family favourite for everyone apart from Andy. And the headline is, it has increased the fastest in terms of its price compared to other UK takeaways. So in the past 5 years, the price of a portion of fish and chips has increased by 52%. So it now costs almost £10 a portion. So what was once known as, a cheap, pretty good value takeaway for a family is now going to cost, the best part of 50 quid for a family of 5. So not cheap at all. And I've seen headlines over the last few years of people being like, I cannot believe it. Like in local papers where it's just like, I went for a fish and chips and I could not believe how much it costs. It's kind of like going out to a restaurant or like eating out in a pub. And compared to other takeaways, the price of a portion of kebab went up 44% in the same time frame, and pizza has gone up 30%. Now, the businesses are saying it's like a perfect storm in terms of the factors that have contributed to the price hike. So energy bills, we know that's affecting businesses and individuals alike, but there's also been tariffs on seafood imports as a result of the war in Ukraine, and extreme weather, which we talk about a lot, impacting potato harvests. So they've become more expensive because of the issues with the climate. So yeah, like with something quite interesting in this BBC article was that fish and chips has been a staple on the menus of British families for decades, so much so that supplies of the two ingredients were protected during both world wars. So yeah, I like that little tidbit. And I think what the business owners were talking about in this article as well is quite interesting, is people still expect it to be cheap or good value. And I think people are prepared to pay a lot more for pizza, especially with kind of more of the artisan kind of sourdough, selection. But even before that, people will pay way more for a Domino's, or expect to, or the kind of the chain pizza places, than they would for fish and chips from like your local chippy. So we kind of had this price hike challenging our perceptions. And I think, some of these business owners are really worried about what it means for, businesses that they've passed on through generations, probably since one of the wars.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I know obviously the focus there we were attacking was fish and chips, but those prices you gave on kebabs, 44%, pizzas 30%, it's going to be universal across, pretty much most types of takeaway, I guess. And it's this thing which, I've kind of always seen takeaways as a bit more of a luxury rather than a regular thing. But for a lot of people, it isn't. It's a thing you do every single week, maybe more than once a week. I know people who are, they've got their Deliveroo Plus and their Uber One, and they're ordering stuff all the time from them. And when they have gone up so much, it just makes it so much more pressure on your budgets. And I think find the those apps, particularly all the extra fees that they add on top, making it even more expensive still. I do wonder how much people actually have picked up on it, because if you're just sort of adding all the stuff together and you're pressing pay on the app rather than being there and handing over the cash, I'm realizing quite how much people are spending all the time on this stuff. And it's fine if you can afford it, obviously, it's not a problem. But I think, this could be a bit of a heads up, a bit more of a warning if you haven't already. I think most people over the last few, all the prices going up everywhere, people have taken a look at their expenditure and tried to root out stuff that's, not essential if they don't have enough cash. But yeah, I think that kind of price increase over the years, take a look at how much you spend on takeaways and maybe try and be that little bit pickier about where you're going. See if you can, still go to the place, get in the car, drive to the chippy and pick it up there, because it will be cheaper than getting it via your Uber Eats and your Deliveroos. See if there are other discounts and deals that can help bring down the price. Nikki's actually just in the middle of writing some articles on the website about ways to save on some of those takeaway apps, and we've just published one on Uber Eats, so do check that out. There are ways to bring the price down, and we'll have ones on Just Eat and Deliveroo coming soon. But yeah, my personal preference is always, if I can, to go direct to the source. But it's just so much harder now to do that. So much harder.
I think with couple of hacks for fish and chips. One for me in my chippy around the corner, don't get it very often, it is a treat, but we will get a large cod and a large chips because it's massive, split it. My friend, she pretended she had kids and she ordered the kids' portions and just took it away. I mean, what are they going to do? Like, you can order what you want. So, yeah, there you go, straight from here.
And also, I mean, you can also look at the type of fish you get. Ultimately, once it's all battered in there, roughly, I wouldn't say relatively all the same, but some types of fish will be cheaper than others, and also more sustainable. But that's probably a conversation for another time. Let's wrap things up with our deals of the week. I've got 3, and then you've got another 3 as well, Amelia, haven't you? Barclays, the bank switch, which I've told you guys about when it launched back in July, I think it was, that ends on Friday. So you've only got, very little time, just hours left in order to apply for the account and start the switch. There are other conditions in terms of what you need to do to trigger the payment, but it's worth 175 quid. So it's well worth having a look. Again, more details, becleveryourcash.com. We've got the full analysis there. Plus, there's a separate video on the YouTube channel. And I'm pretty sure I've spoken about it in the podcast in detail as well. So do check that out ASAP if you want to take advantage of it. The only warning I've got for you there is in September, and I will talk about this in more detail in a later episode, those changes to the Barclays Blue Rewards are coming into play, which means you're going to be looking at paying £5 a month until you get that cash. And it might only be a month or two, but that will obviously knock off the total amount that you get. But still worth giving it a look if you haven't already. A couple of Nectar things to tell you about here. The first one is around eBay, 31st of August, which I think is Saturday, right? That is the last day that you'll be able to convert Nectar points into vouchers to use on eBay. Now, those vouchers, when you convert them, they're valid for a year, I think. We've covered this in more detail on the site, explaining exactly how it works. But if you have got a load of Nectar points, maybe you've accumulated them from like Amex offers where you swapped your Avios into Nectar or whatever it might be. If you've got a lot of them and you think you might spend them on eBay, you spend money on eBay throughout the year, it might be worth doing that now because otherwise you're much more limited again to effectively pretty much just Sainsbury's and Argos. And the other thing with Nectar is to check your Nectar app, because a lot of people, not all people, we think a lot of people, they've brought back the shop for points promotion. Relatively easy one. Just in the next month, need to swipe your Nectar card 5 times, spend at least £1 each time, and you'll get bonus points as you go along. You do need to activate the offer first though, so do that. Check it's there, activate it. Remember to swipe it. Might be about 700 points, which is only £3.50. It's not a huge amount, but if you're at Sainsbury's anyway, you may as well swipe along and get those extras.
Great, thanks for those. I've got a couple for cinema lovers. So it's actually National Cinema Day on Saturday. And as part of a national promotion, you can get £4 tickets to most cinemas. So View, Odeon, Cineworld, Picture Houses, and loads of independent cinemas as well. The one that doesn't seem to be involved is Everyman, but they rarely seem to get involved in kind of promotions. So yeah, broad across the country. This will include all screenings, but you might have to pay more for kind of special screenings, you know, if you want 3D, IMAX, VIP, those kind of things. And you may also have to pay booking fees. We've got another cinema deal as well, where you can get 2 Picture House tickets for £10.69 with voucher, and that includes vouchers, admin fee, and the booking fee when you come to book on the Picture House website. The deal ends on the 9th of September, so shortly, but you've then got 3 months to use the tickets. And then finally, another IKEA mention. This is for students. So they're running a deal where students can get £10 or £20 coupons off their shop. So for the £10 coupon, you have to spend at least £75. And for the £20 coupon, you have to spend at least £150. So if you're going to IKEA anyway to kind of get stuff for university or for your, for kind of like to sort out your house, it's quite a good deal. You need to verify yourself as a student with your student email address. And if you don't have that yet, you can use other documents such as your enrollment offer with your name and address on. And you have to sign up for IKEA Family, which is the loyalty scheme that we just kind of spoke about. And the offer runs until the 13th of October.
Well, there you go. Thanks, Amelia. And thank you to everyone for either watching this on YouTube or listening on all those podcasting apps. If you do want to read the articles that we've spoken about or get more information about all those deals that we've just covered, it is all over at becleverwithyourcash.com. So please do visit us there.
And before we go, Andy's doing another live Q&A on Monday at 7 p.m. on YouTube and Instagram. So make sure you tune into that and submit your money questions early for the best chance of getting them answered. And we will be back with another episode on Tuesday. So see you then.
Cheers.